Hey guys. So it's been a couple of days since I've last posted my last video about Amy Chua's article, the why Chinese mothers are superior, and I'm a little bit surprised by some of the comments. I was fully expecting negative comments, which I got, of course, by a couple of people, but overwhelmingly I gotten personal messages from people, and they've been pretty positive. No big surprise to me. Most of the comments were positive, came from people, obviously Westerners, not necessarily just white, but people who were born in America, who grew up with a Western perspective, which is generally more open to. I really don't want to use the word reason, but I mean, for lack of a better term, I mean that's exactly what I'm going for, because my argument in the first place about Confucianism was, as it's practiced currently in Chinese society, and I guess in Vietnam as well, and Korea, and to a lesser degree, I think, in Japan, is that it's very authority-based, and that a prevailing view that authority has is not really kind of open to a lot of debate. You either agree or you don't agree, and if you don't agree, well, then you shut up. I mean, Liu Xiaobo, didn't learn that lesson, so now he's back in jail. I'm hoping, things turn out okay for him. I'm not going to hold my breath. Hopefully some political pressure will be placed on China to release him. In my opinion, straight democracy in China so quickly is actually a bad idea. People are just not ready for it. It's kind of like what's happening over in Russia right now. Free markets and democracy. People don't know what to do with free markets and democracy over in Russia, although they don't have them. But if they were to have them, it just wouldn't end up very well, because the people are just so used to strife. They have become conditioned to living in poor conditions. So things have to go things have new systems of government and lifestyle have to be adopted very slowly, and it's actually already happening at a breakneck speed in China right now. I mean, I recently read an article about Chinese families practicing acceptance for their gay and lesbian children, which this is unheard of. I mean, that's rather amazing. I mean, I never thought that I'd actually read an article about the Chinese being so progressive. I mean, I'm still used to the idea that if your child turns out gay in a Chinese household, that's pretty much the end of him. I don't mean they'd kill him, but they'd pretty much it's essentially grounds for disownment, or a cutoff from the family. So things are really happening quickly. And of course, with the advent of the internet, I mean, the Great Firewall in China, well, it's not a physical thing. It's something that can be broken through by very clever hackers. So it's amazing. We're really living in amazing times. I just recently I finished reading Dr. Lak Su's article. He responded to the Amy Chua article, and it's actually very telling. I'm reminded actually of my childhood when he recounted his childhood. Now my mom didn't make me eat cow's brains for a year, so I guess I got the low-fat version of the Chinese mom. But still, a Chinese mom nonetheless. It's true. One of the keep an eye out for a posted paper that I'll put out on a PDF. There is, of course, everyone knows the benefits. There's a cost-benefit analysis to the Chinese mom, or the Chinese parent, the tiger parent, excuse me, to use Professor Chua's terminology. There is a cost-benefit analysis. I mean, everyone knows the benefits, of course. Everyone knows the benefits. They talk about it all the time. Western parents go like, "Oh, what can I do to get my parent, to get my child to be the valedictorian of the high school? What can I do to get my child to play the piano, to do their homework, sit down, shut up, be quiet in a library, to not be rowdy. They see all the benefits, but conveniently, Mrs. Chua doesn't talk about the costs so much, or if she does, it's very on a very cursory manner. Well, I mean, if economists like to talk about something called utility, and they like to say, for the sake of simplicity, they like to talk about utility equals happiness. For those of you who studied economics, I mean, there are theories on that, but I'm a little bit less inclined to just so easily say that, because I think that a person's, I mean, as we all know, satisfaction is very much a function of your general disposition in life. Some people who are born very happy, or a general disposition, have a kind of a predisposition towards being happy, are satisfied with very little in life, and then there are other people who are just extremely difficult to please. But the problem is that if you have negative reinforcement all the time, everything, generally, you're going to be trained to be very difficult to please. So from a utility perspective, it's not very good. If you think about it, if you're trained from the get-go to be dissatisfied with everything except the best, you're going to be suffering a lot of dissatisfaction, and there's no way you can be happy, because it makes sense. Only one person can be number one. I mean, not every single Chinese kid can be at the head of a class. So that basically means then, if you have two Chinese kids and you have one Chinese kid who didn't make it to the front of the class, that means one Chinese kid then went through a whole lot of suffering and didn't do anything to mitigate that suffering because he didn't come at the head of the class. So that means someone is very unhappy. Now think about that. Apply that to all of the Chinese students and all the Chinese kids overseas in China, or in Korea, or in Vietnam and Japan, and all the other satellite Confucian societies. You got a lot of unhappiness. On the other hand, a Western style, in a Western style household, you got some bad stuff. If you don't kind of crack the whip a little bit, you do get truancy, and you do get, you do get drugs this and rowdy that. You don't have too much of that as a percentage, proportion-wise, in a Chinese household. But at the same time, you don't get the great moves forward in terms of creativity and art. I mean, have you seen Chinese art lately? I mean, bamboo this and goldfish that and mountain this. I mean, if one could argue that if art is by definition originality and creativity, one could even make the argument that China doesn't really have that much art. They have crafts, jade, but I don't know if I would call that art. You wouldn't get like Dutch master stuff out of China, for example. I mean, China's art for thousands of years has pretty much stayed the same. It hasn't really evolved much. But I mean, if you look at the West, though, lots of it, of advancement. So there's a cost-benefit analysis to everything. What I think I've been trying to push is the idea that one need not necessarily be a tiger mom or a tiger parent to... No one can guarantee anything, but you can increase the chances that your child can be happy and successful. The two need not necessarily be mutually exclusive. Mrs. Chua wasn't, of course, she wasn't making that point either, but one kind of got the distinct impression that you had to suffer in order to really maximize being successful, and which would lead to happiness. But I'm not really convinced of that, or I kind of exercise a certain level of skepticism. Anyway, so as I said again, the videos so far have generated, as I said, more comments than I was actually expecting initially, and bad ones too. But thanks to everyone for chiming in with the good comments. It's rather encouraging, and I'll try and post up that document as soon as I can. All right, thanks again.